Okay, so one of the most interesting things of the weekend, I thought, was Joanne Cantwell standing on the sideline with Kieran Whelan and Pat Spillane yesterday after the match. Did no studio because of the general election, so they had to do the whole Alliance League Sunday analysis from the sideline. And I don't know if it was because Pat was so cold or that he just wanted to say something and get it out. But he said after that he didn't think Mayo were genuine All-Ireland contenders anymore. Like, what are your own opinions on that? It's very early to be making such a statement.
It is very early, but even just the news that Colin Boyle, and I don't think it was specified what the injury was, but a knee injury and a serious one, that kind of spells cruciate. Now, it could be one of these things that's 2 or 3 month job.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even still up in the air with them. But if he's out, that's a huge blow. And I actually do like Michael Plunkett, what I've seen in the past. Everyone likes Lee Keegan, brilliant player. Actually, is Lee Keegan quite at that same level as he was at 16, 17?
Probably not at the moment.
That's probably a legacy of injuries, but like he could get back to being absolutely, very, very top level. Patrick Durkin is still brilliant. Look at the full back line. I really rate Brendan Harrison. I think Owen O'Donoghue showed up really well a couple of years ago. So it's not like all of a sudden they've fallen off the face of a cliff. Kevin, they relied on Kevin McLaughlin, who's been going for years. Like, I remember him scoring a brilliant goal against Cork in 2011 when they were All-Ireland champions.
That's right, yeah.
And he's still on the go, and he's coming in and bailing them out. He rescued them from relegation a couple of years ago.
He's a funny one. He tends to do his best damage off the bench. And you've probably noticed players down through the years like that as well, where they come off the bench, make a big impact, but they start the next day, maybe they're quiet and taking off.
Kevin McManaman?
Yeah, to some extent. He just seems to suit the role unbelievably well and thrives in it. But you've seen that with different guys down through the years. Whatever it is, when he comes in, he generally makes a big impact.
I'd say that you could make a case that Mayo aren't All-Ireland contenders this year. And I actually hope they are, because the football championship is always poor when they're not challenging. But like James Carr has shown a couple of flashes, and obviously that goal against Galway last year is the first one to be talked about. And a fluky goal against Donegal earlier in the league. Let's be honest, he's going for a point. But you could see him becoming a really top player. But much like him, James Durkin, maybe Tommy Conroy at times, these lads seem to me anyway that they're brilliant 1 minute, and then the next minute you're like, okay, it's going to take a bit longer for the consistency to come. Aidan O'Shea, it still feels like we have to find a position. What position best suits him?
I think midfield.
And I thought he was very good against Dublin, but the question always comes back then, against Dublin in those massive games in the middle of the summer, when in the wide open field against that absolute track team that is that Dublin half back line and midfield, is it going to work for him in that position? So I don't know. Do you feel that they're All-Ireland contenders?
I still think they're All-Ireland contenders. Like, based on last year, you have to remember they were beating Dublin at half-time last year when they were hit by 12 minutes of the most sublime football you will ever see. Won the league last year as well. Like, go down through their team. Just looking at the forward lines there. James Carr is still pretty raw. Tommy Conroy, very raw. James Durkin, very raw. Ryan O'Donoghue, who I thought was very good actually, was very raw. Fergal Boland's been around for a couple of years as well, but like raw enough in general too.
Cillian O'Connor has to come in.
Yeah.
Of course, the thing with Cillian O'Connor is he's obviously, the highest scorer in football history, but is he a massive scoring threat from play against the biggest teams at the, we do know that he's a very good forward, but are Dublin terrified of him?
No, probably not. And what you said about Aidan O'Shea, like possibly not being able to play midfield, again, you're mentioning that against one team. So like I understand where you're coming from, but he will.
But they keep getting knocked out in Connacht in the last few years. It keeps happening.
Yeah.
So they're of course they're still a Connacht contender and they could easily win it. But if you're getting caught that early and you're always kind of chasing your tail for the rest of the season and it catches up on you, even if that's in a 12-minute burst, they keep finding ways to shoot themselves in the foot. And maybe that's because some of the very, very best players are just gone a little bit past it, and they might have to wait for 2 years for the likes of James Carr, James Durkin, a couple more of these lads to really, really find that level of, the players that Mayo had at 2015, 16, 17, when they were probably at their closest.
Yeah, we probably haven't seen enough of the under-21 All-Ireland winning team from 3-4 years ago at this stage, beating an under-20 final 2 years ago as well.
I thought Conor Loftus would have really stepped up by now,
He was very well thought of. Like, Evan Regan was around that time as well, but Loftus, from chatting to good few people in Mayo, was the one that they really thought would push on, and hasn't really. He's shown glimpses. Jason Doherty's obviously out as well.
Yeah.
He'll be back at some stage too.
Kieran Tracy has shown glimpses in the last year or so.
Oh, he definitely has. He's brilliant at full forward for long stages last year. Keith Higgins obviously as well. is to come back at some stage. There are a lot of guys to come back.
Goalkeeping position is still an issue. In terms of like in the very biggest games in the white hot heat of battle, like we saw it over the weekend in a couple of different games, and in the past few weeks, like Shane Ryan would have kind of had difficulty against Dublin, and it is always measured on Dublin, and it has to be. I don't care if it's even a boring thing to say, but like unless you can do it against Dublin on the biggest day, what's it going to count for?
Yeah, I know what you mean, because if you're getting to a fight, what you're saying about Aidan O'Shea, playing him midfield will get you very, very close. Whether it gets you what you want to ultimately get to, I don't know.
Because for him to be effective, you probably don't want him chasing after defenders all day.
No.
You want him to get the ball off the shoulder of someone and go through him like a train.
Yeah.
And whether that's because he's not getting on enough ball or the teammates around him aren't getting on enough ball to allow that situation to occur, whatever it is, the kind of end effect is that Mayo aren't getting themselves into those positions.
There's a bit of a real good cuteness yesterday from Dermot O'Connor. Did you see that when Killian O'Sullivan was kicking a free? He was standing with his back to him, kind of down his hunkers. He was no more than 4 yards away from him, and he was hitting the free as well. And he got just little small things like that. You know?
Yeah, so like Mayo won 1-9 to 2-5. Killian O'Sullivan was fairly systematically fouled in the first half from what I saw, and also I'd have to say those conditions were absolutely atrocious. Really, really difficult. For Meath, what was it, 7-1 at half time or something?
Yeah, Mayo were rampant in the first half, in fairness.
And it's like the fact that the game obviously was quite close, because all the game in the second half, all these games just affected so much by the wind. You're doing a fair job to hold on, and for Kevin McLaughlin to come on and score 1-2 when you needed it against the wind, that is some going.
And the goal was a killer, because Meath were in possession, and it was kind of just, it was a load of pressure put on. The hand pass was overturned, passed into McLaughlin, who finished brilliantly. But Mayo were the better side. Meath obviously still have their goalkeeping problems, and their attack, like 2-5, 1 goal scored by a defender anyway, definitely a lovely move. A lovely 3-man weave, ended up in a 2-man weave between Donald Keoghan, who I always say is one of the best defenders in the country, and he passed it into James McEntee. It was actually a beautiful goal. But they're not putting up big tallies at all. 2-5, 1-9, I think, and 7 points in their 3 games.
And like they got
4 points in last year's Leinster final as well.
Thomas O'Reilly, who looks good, he scored a point from play. You're talking about Ronan Jones and James McEntee with goals.
Both goals, sorry, that's both defenders, isn't it? Yeah.
And then like Brian McMahon from play. After that, everything else was from either a mark or from a free. Yeah. So 4 scores and 7 years ago. Yeah. No, that's that's probably just not going to be enough. Actually, we were at a qualifier, Clare against Meath last year. Do you remember Thomas O'Reilly? I'm not 100% sure if you were there or not, but Thomas O'Reilly was brought on and Luke Chadwick-Duff very, very quickly. And you'd always wonder what's going to happen with a player like that. But he has been thrown back in, and I think he looks like a good talent. But Meath are going to be up against it, aren't they?
They're going to struggle.
They're probably going down.
There's no two ways about it. They're definitely going down. Whatever chance they had of staying up would have been the other day. It was interesting to hear Andy McEntee's comments after. I can't remember exactly the number. I'm going to say it was 6 minutes of injury time, and it was a couple of seconds over 6, and it was blown up. And he said that there was a couple of injuries during that time or whatever. And then you look at the Dublin game the other night, there was 6 minutes advertised, and I think he played the guts of 9. I was at that game, and I would have had no problem if he played another minute and a half.
Yeah, sure, we're stopped up all the time.
And I just counted it there last night. From the time the ball went out for a 45 to Rory Beggan kicking was a minute. That's a lot of time. Yeah. Very, very stop-start. People were, some people were saying after, and in fairness, Banty definitely wasn't one of them, that the ref gave Dublin every chance, which I don't buy at all, to be honest with you.
Would you like a stop clock?
I think it's the only way to be effective. Definitely a stop clock, even a stop clock in injury time alone would work very well.
The one adjustment I'd make to that is I'd like it to be, and the ball has to go out of play. God knows I hate rugby, but that is one rule that I would take in. That, fair enough, but if the hooter goes, but if you're in the middle of an attack, surely the ball has to go out of play before this is blown up. What an anticlimax! Because it is, in as much as rugby is a dour sport, it can be quite exciting if a team is camped on the line and you see that it's gone past the 80 minutes.
And even if Meath or whoever have a kick out and the ball's in play, all right, we have another play. This is it. We have another play. It's
Yeah.
not like they get to midfield and the referee, like, that's infuriating.
Yeah.
No, that is. Like, why did he let them take the kick out in the first place?
Yeah.
If he was going to blow it when he got out to midfield or when he got out to the 45.
And the other thing, you can kick it out of play, but like, and that would be the end of the game. But maybe you can't kick it out over your own end line, or it has to at least be outside the 45 or something like that.
Yeah.
Just so it's not just sucking all the excitement out of the place. So as you said, you were at Dublin Monaghan. I was down the country voting. Dublin.
I was also down the country voting, but I got back up now.
You must have went down fierce early, did you?
I was down for training Friday night, voted early, and then came up for the Fitzgibbon games.
Whereas I'd have had to go down and back up. See, I'd had training Friday night up the country. Do you know what I mean? Like, criticising you unfairly.
County versus culture.
I know. So Dublin 115, Monaghan 115. I was so impressed with Monaghan for so long, and then they just fell off the face of a cliff. Is it something to do with Monaghan not being at the same physical level of Dublin, a very experimental Dublin team, or is it white line fever? Yes, we're going to beat Dublin, although they'd beaten them the 2 previous years. What is it?
Definitely looked like they got spooked a small bit. It's gas.
By the fluky goal from Kevin McManaman?
He kicked the ball up in the air. He was the one who kicked the ball in the air and followed it in. Fluky, opportunistic, I would say as well. But we've talked about this before, and we've talked about it in hurling. Sometimes just take a shot, just try something. Like, if they tried to keep working across the hand, there's no way they wouldn't have got a goal chance. Try and make something happen. Sometimes it can cause a bit of chaos when you leave a ball in.
Didn't Bernard Brogan get his goal in the 2013 final, the one he punched in over Henley because someone took a shot that went short?
Exactly, yeah. I just think you're always better to have the ball in around there rather than, we can't find space. Just sometimes at the end of a game, just get it in there. Give yourself a chance. Monaghan, as good as they were in the first half, I think it was 53% conversion rate. They did miss a lot of chances in the first half. They could have been totally out of sight. And there is just a thing with Dublin now. It's almost like you have to be that far ahead, or they're just going to absolutely come at you in waves in the second half. That first hour was the worst hour I've seen from Dublin in a long, long time.
My housemate put €2 on Dublin at 45-1 in running to get a draw.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's a handy 90
That's
quid.
sweet. No, that is that's very nice. Yeah. I think it was a combination of Monaghan being a bit spooked by Dublin, kind of knowing that run was going to come, and the Doves maybe just only really getting into their stride as the game went on. Looked very heavy-legged. I think it was more to do with, I'd say there's a fair bit of training going on there. They are laid back. I think that's one of the reasons maybe they looked more heavy-legged than in previous games.
If you're Desi Farrell, are you a little bit, I don't know, like, so you've 2 draws and a win so far, so 4 points out of 6. That's fine. You take that. Most teams that are hoping to win a league title will do that, and even in terms of, like, he's no loss yet, so that's good. But he does need to get the wins up, and he does need to make sure that he doesn't have a heavy loss, as it looked like it would be for a while, even if he's experimenting. He like, just because the shadow of Jim Gavin, like, that's got to be looming large over him the whole time. He feels like, I need to put my own stamp on it, my own identity, and not just have people talking about how, well, all I had to do was not ruin things.
Yeah,
and it's kind of almost in a way Jim Gavin's All Ireland if we win it this year. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, there was definitely more changes the other night than there had been in any other game. I think it was 3 Crokes lads came in: Darren Mullen, Dan O'Brien, and Liam Flatman came in as well. So there was a fair bit of inexperience, and they looked inexperienced at times.
Dan O'Brien's shooting was, you don't have to ask him twice, we'll say.
Yeah, and I don't.
He wasn't the only one though. There was a few, like, there was even experienced lads taking on.
Yeah, shots. It was weird, wasn't it? Yeah, it was weird. It's hard to, like, overstate. Like, the conditions were awful. Like, they were really. That's why some of Monaghan shooting, particularly in the first half, was top class. But it just seemed to be an awful lot easier to shoot into the hill, whatever way it was the other night. It just seemed to be an awful lot easier. I think Desi Farrell would be delighted with that the other night. He got 3 new faces in. Like, I'm going through, like, who he's missing. Obviously missing Stephen Cluxton. He's obviously missing Philly McMahon, Jack McCaffrey, Con O'Callaghan, Paddy Andrews even went off early the other day. Michael Dara McCauley. There's a lot of new kind of people to come back in. Paddy Small was down to play, didn't play at all. So, like, there was a good few new faces. With lads that I say were probably going through a fairly heavy training load. And they scored 112 in the second half. Do you know, they came good when it really mattered, as they invariably do. Like, our Dublin, they're so like the Kilkenny team of old. Like, are they the hardest team? They must be the hardest team, one of the hardest teams to beat in sport.
Yeah, but that's also just as much as it's the confidence in their heads, it's also kind of doubled down on with the fear in the other team's head of, oh God,
that's such a powerful thing to have. Like
Ryan McInnesby missed a really good goal chance just before half time.
He knew it himself too. Yeah,
and they actually had a black card at that stage.
Yeah, and Dublin made hay with that black card too. They pressed unbelievably high. Pressed play against kickouts outrageously high. Even in early first 5 minutes of the second half, I'd say Dublin had maybe 12 lads from midfield up. They were pressing so high. It's so interesting to see their take on tactics as well. And it must have been discussed in the dressing room at half time. How are we going to make advantage of this? Take total advantage. And invariably, they were able to do something different. They're kind of, I hate using like their game management, but it's phenomenally good.
I put up after the game this was actually even before Dublin had gotten an equaliser, but as the game was going that way and Dublin were making a right push, is this late push from Dublin papering over the cracks, or are there cracks at all? And in brackets, considering they're starting training late, have lads to come back, etc. And Carl O'Kane, my old colleague from the Star, he goes, option B, shit in the first half, no pressing up front. Monaghan struggled with their high press second half. That's the real Dublin. Does that sound about right?
I think that's accurate enough, to be honest with you. With the heavy training load and a few other things thrown in as well, and new faces thrown in, adapting to basically the way they played. Those guys wouldn't have played. They wouldn't have played the way they would have played training games and stuff like that, but they wouldn't have played in that system, in that style, in Croke Park under high pressure.
Within that, would a Jim Gavin team ever have fallen that far behind?
I don't think they did. I think it's the furthest.
It might have happened. So
it's the furthest Dublin have been behind a half time, I think, since 2012, when Mayo were beating them by 11 or 12 in the league. I think I saw Pat the Stat Nolan from the Mirror tweeting last night.
Yeah, so nothing to worry about if you're a Dublin fan?
No, I don't think there's anything to worry about.
What about some of the young players? Like Aaron Byrne has shown up well at times. Dan O'Brien, you can see there's definitely a bit of there's a bit of stuff to all these Dublin players. They're not in there for no reason. Do you see any evidence that some of the more experienced players are slowing down?
Not that much, to be honest with you. There's no sign of Keane O'Sullivan yet. And maybe like Philly played against Kerry, didn't he? I think. We obviously, maybe, I don't know whether he has a knock or not, but I think Desi Farrell will be clever enough in the way that like those lads don't need to be playing huge amount of. It's funny. It's a new manager coming in, but it's not that new manager approach so far where. Like I haven't been looking the last 10 years. I need you to play. I need you to play all these games. It doesn't seem to be that approach. It seems to be a smarter approach. Just on players as well. Sean Bugler was brilliant off the bench the other night. He was brilliant.
Well, it's an interesting situation whereby you have a guy who managed an awful lot of these players himself underage with Dublin, and he was probably managing these players and developing these players in a way that would feed into how that Dublin team was performing under Jim Gavin. So he's probably just coming into and taking over a team that he's kind of developed in this sort of system anyway.
Yeah, that's probably why. Like, I know they were very poor the other night, but like they're not going to. They're still finished with a kind of a flourish. They're not going to be. It's not some big radical culture shock. Oh, we're just getting used to training. We're getting used to the way we're playing. In general, it's kind of staying the same. That continuity is a big plus as well with him coming in there.
Galway came back from 7 points behind to beat Donegal 2-8, 2-7 in Letterkenny. I'm still impressed with what I'm seeing from Galway, and we keep talking about Shane Walsh, but rightly so. He's the difference since Pádraig Joyce has taken over. A fellow full forward is just night and day, because I thought he's just getting lost in games at times. He tried these mad 70-yard runs, and then you're wondering where is the end product, and that is the big thing. The end product is there, whether he's winning frees, whether he's setting up scores. Like, he scored 4 himself and 2 from play, taking on sidelines with his left foot and all.
Yeah,
he's obviously a guy that's not shy of confidence, but definitely a marked difference in him.
He looks to be playing. He's not always playing full forward, but he's there a lot of the time as well. And he picks up the ball maybe around the 45 and has a bit of time to go on that kind of mazy run. He's so good. Like being a defender and having him staring at you, coming at you with the ball like that is like probably the worst feeling in the world.
Would you rather him running at you or Damien Comer, who's named at centre forward and probably definitely operated out the field a little bit?
I prefer Comer coming at me because it's more
go through you though.
Yeah, it's more of a barreling kind of a thing. Shane Walsh will make you look like a clown.
And you need no help doing that.
There we go.
It comes to you naturally.
Get in my red nose.
Yeah, like they definitely look like a team that maybe not in All Ireland this year, but they could trouble most teams because look, they were dour to watch. You hated going to their games. You wondered, where is this all going? Now it feels like, right, this is the first couple of steps in the right direction.
No, I'd agree with you too, and even like two cornerbacks getting forward to score the goals.
Yeah, Heaney and Kelly.
And finishing really well. It wasn't like a hand pass or a volleyball kind of effort. So he's obviously given them that kind of freedom to go forward.
Like Rob Finnerty.
Yeah, he's been impressive so far.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see how I think Liam Silk will be absolutely ideal for the way they're playing. He'll get so much freedom to go forward. I look forward to see Ian Burke in there as well, even more kind of creativity. It's going to be interesting. Kieran Malloy as well, yeah. It's going to be interesting, yeah. There's the bounce of the new manager and the optimism around we can win All Ireland, which he clearly does think has definitely gone through in these two games. Now, Donegal could have had them put away before they let Galway back into the game. Definitely yesterday, Donegal were well on top. I think that the ball cleared off the line. I mean, Michael Murphy seemed to think it. I don't know whether he thought it was over the line
nuts about it,
or whether I thought the ball was picked up straight off the ground.
Yeah. And like with a defender doing it, would it not been the goalkeeper, that should have been a penalty.
Yeah.
And of course, he did score a penalty after missing one.
Missed one either I think the previous week against Meath. Yeah.
So Michael Murphy scored 1-3. All of those from placed balls. Kieran Thompson scored 1-1. One of the point was a free. Jamie Brennan scored 2. One of them was a mark, and Peter Morgan scored as well. Not that much from play, but of course it's all fairly forgivable with weather like that.
Yeah, in those sort of conditions, you wouldn't like. If you look at the Galway starting attack, when you take the 2 goals out for defenders, what they would have scored very, very little from play either. Like the conditions are awful. You look at like 2-9 to 1-5 in the Meath Mayo game, 2-8 to 2-7. Like that's the day it was. 14-13. Tyrone and Kerry, like, do you know what I mean? So that's the sort of weekend it was.
We'll get on to Tyrone and Kerry, and I did an extended chat with Declan Bogue about it, a journalist based up in Omagh from Fermanagh, of course. But what were your thoughts on that game? Did you get a chance to watch it through and see what happened?
I saw most of it. It was great for Darren McCurry, who was obviously playing in his home club. Like it was moved from home.
The Dazzler.
The Dazzler. Yeah, he fairly dazzled yesterday. That sideline he put over was absolutely outrageous. And then you had Niall Morgan, who's also Eden Dark, coming up and kicking. I think he kicked 4 frees throughout the game.
He kicked 4, and McCurry had 3 frees, 3 frees and a sideline. Yeah. And
there was a great quote from McCurry after. I don't know where they live or where their home house is.
No, he said the apartment is over the back of the house.
It's over the back of it, yeah. He said he imagined his mother looking out watching him or something like that.
I was listening to the interview on BBC. I think she must have passed away, and that was the way the commentator was talking. That's what I took from it. Now maybe I'm wrong, so apologies if I got that wrong, but that's just what I took from it. So it was a very nice interview.
He was brilliant now, and
he was really good, wasn't he?
Yeah,
because I thought this wouldn't suit him. That someone called the Dazzler, and let's call a spade a spade. He's your textbook corner forward that's going to probably have the tape around the wrists and the haircut and pointing at his calf last year when he got a score. It was the year before actually. But dirty, filthy day in Eden Dark. You wonder, should a game like that even go ahead? It's just been moved from Omagh, of course.
Yeah,
he stood up.
He did, in fairness. There was actually, just when you mentioned about that, whether the game should have went ahead, there was a picture of someone, I think it was Michael McMullen, had it up on Twitter, of Celtic Park in Derry after the Derry match. And God help the poor old caretaker of the field, like. The patches, it was just mad. It's just destroyed, like, and Eden Dark would have been the same. While they'd be delighted as a club to have had that game there, I'd say that pitch would probably be closed for about 3 weeks, like.
You know the way Niall Morgan hits a lovely free. Now the odd one goes wrong on him, but he does hit a lovely free, and he gave it the fist pump and he gave it the finger wag and that kind of stuff. But I was thinking, especially being from Eden Dark, to be a great nickname for him, the Eden Dark Exocet. So anyone who knows their snooker will know that Ronnie O'Sullivan's original nickname was the Essex Exocet.
Yeah.
So that's like this kind of war boat ship type thing that can shoot missiles into the sky, take down planes.
It's not catchy enough.
The Essex Exocet.
No, Exocet.
It's a brilliant word.
Most of the population, including me, would be like, what the hell's an Exocet?
Like, in fairness, like, you were the worst lad to be bringing it up to.
Exocet.
What you know about military, you could write in the back of his stand.
What was it? Was it like someone said, what that man doesn't know about football isn't worth knowing.
But yeah, excellent free taker. Crazy from Kerry to keep giving away frees in the first half. It was 8 points to 4 at half time. like Tyrone basically shouldn't have really been on the score sheet at all.
No, it shouldn't have been. Totally kept them in the game, in fairness. Yeah. Obviously, the big talking point, and I know you've done a video on it already, the Clifford thing at the end is just mad. It's just mad. Maybe it'll finally force a bit of a rethink or some sort of a way around this. Like, I've had referees involved in management teams with me, and they've literally said, like, just grab your man and roll around. If you have to, if he's on the yellow, just grab him and roll around. And he'll be given, if you're not on the yellow, he'll be given a yellow and he's off. And it's the most obvious thing in the world, and yet it's still going on. Like, Clifford actually had his hands out, and you could see he was totally an innocent party in it. Obviously, it was a sub that came on him who had no yellow card, and then they lose their best player for they would have definitely levelled if he'd been on the pitch.
Colin McShane has spoken in the past that if you're on a yellow card as a defender, you're going to get taken off straight away. Because we've seen that in the past, because he's just not going to risk a red card. You're never really going to do that with your attackers. So that just shows, like, I'm not saying Tyrone go out to do that, but we all know that players go out to try and get lads sent off.
Oh yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And if you're an attacker and you're not going to be taken off and you're on a yellow card, you're in serious danger for the rest of the game. Did you notice at the start of the second half in Monaghan, Dublin? Now, I didn't actually see the altercation, but Paul Mannion and his man ended up getting booked at the very start.
Before the ball was thrown in, yeah. Mannion had only come on at half time. He actually hadn't touched the ball and it was a yellow card.
A player like that who normally lights it up with his scores, it's hard to imagine he's going to go in and get into it with a player.
Not a hope. You think Paul Mannion's going to go in?
We don't have the proof now. This is just what you'd imagine.
Yeah.
So
he's under pressure then before it starts.
But how do you? But so is the defender in that situation too, because if he gets turned once and pulls the man down, he's gone.
True. Yeah.
But so it's hard to know who benefits. But if you know you're going to take a defender off if he gets a booking, and the player understands, okay, I'm not actually getting dropped here for something silly I did. It's just this is the way that we're going to react to those situations. Yeah, it's not like what do you do? Like, do you have video evidence during the middle of a game that you might use?
I don't think you should need it. It happened that close to the umpires. Like, they have to be tuned into.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not. I mean,
well, then you have to look at the vetting process of who an umpire is.
But how do you do a vetting process when the referees aren't getting good enough mileage? Why would you give up half your day to get hammered as an umpire when you're probably not getting much for it?
Well, it's like this. There's going to be a report coming out, I think tomorrow or Wednesday, about GA finances and how much they were in profit for this year, which it probably surprised me. They're going to be in a fair bit of profit. Yeah. So if we can't train up more referees and even have a referee as an umpire, or have, you know what I mean? Like, we need to be looking at, there needs to be more officials, I think, particularly. I'm not just saying it particularly for the bigger games.
But there's 16 games going on, and if you take a good referee out of a Division 4 game to be an umpire in Division 1, what sort of a lad are you going to have refereeing in Division 4?
Train up more, just try and train up. We need to train up more referees over the next 5 to 10 years.
But even if you look at hurling, the amount of like top line officials that just walked away in the last 3 or 4 years because it's just not worth it. Unless you put savage money into it, and then people will say, why are you putting money into referees? We need it in, the clubhouse of a certain.
Well, I think that's a very foolish thing for people to say. Like, why would you invest in referees? Because without referees, we won't have games, and without good referees, we won't have good games.
Like, even like, how many umpires there are just being dragged along, and they don't even want to be there in the first place. Like, an umpire a couple of years ago, and this was in hurling, watched as a goalkeeper pulled my face guard. Watch, and I said, look, he's after just pulling my face guard there. That is a red card offence. And he just said, you were both at it. This is basically what happened with Clifford. You were both at it.
What I'd say now is, are you that bollocks from that OurGame?
Well, yes is the answer to that too. I don't see it being sorted.
I don't know, but at least it's... I was only thinking earlier on in the video there, it's amazing though, like how rules and different things are brought up the whole time. Like, this has been going on for years, and even like with the advanced marking, Brian, it's amazing how a game changes over time. Do you
remember Darren O'Sullivan was absolutely furious when he got a black card really, really quickly? Was it against Mayo or was it against Dublin at Croke Park a few years ago? And he was absolutely incensed. Like, he was only on a couple of minutes and he was irate. This thing it's not a new thing that players are getting done. Like, I mean, that was very, very, so flagrantly obvious that Clifford did nothing.
But sometimes you need a proper high profile example to really bring it into the public consciousness.
There's no obvious solution.
I still think it's to do with the officials. I just think we need to train up more officials. I think it's an investment in the game if we train up more officials.
But to train up an official to, to see two lads wrestling in the corner when there's another 28 players on the field. You're still going to have it.
But as an umpire, like usually that stuff is within 45 yards of you. If you know what's going on.
But there's always a chance too that, like the video clip that we've seen is Ben McDonnell with his arms all over Clifford. We don't know what actually came before that. There's always the outside chance that the forward stood back on the backs. I'm not saying that Clifford did, but there's always a chance that you as a forward, you're sick of having your jersey pulled like that, or just being just the arm on you, and you just decide to, rake your studs down across his feet. Again, I don't know if it happened, but no umpire is going to see that. No one's ever going to see, and that would warrant a yellow card.
Don't get me wrong, you're not going to see everything, but common sense does have to come into it. I hate when we say that because it rarely does come into it. But like David Clifford's not going to raise a row and risk getting sent off.
No, but I'm saying someone is.
I agree.
It only takes a split second because we didn't see what preceded that. You just didn't. What about Tyrone overall? It was good to see Colin McShane back because it just felt like Tyrone and also ran if he was gone.
Changes the whole kind of look of their season really.
Overnight, didn't it?
It really does. It raises a lot of optimism. To be honest with you, I couldn't see past Kerry winning this weekend. I know he only came on and didn't have that much of an influence, but it just does boost the whole thing really. They need that focal point in attack badly, and now your Darren McCurry can contribute, but he's not been relied on. Kyle Coney's not been relied on. And Mark Bradley's not been relied on as much. They're cogs in a wheel rather than most of the wheel, if you know what I mean.
But you've named a load of guys that have probably been tried over the years in that forward line, maybe even in full forward, that it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked with them in that position. They're better as a pilot fish rather than the shark. Never mind your cog analogy. Let's go with something more.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, he just makes the whole thing work, doesn't he? But will there be a second season syndrome in that full forward position? Will he be marked differently? The mark should actually work for him.
It should definitely work for him. The only thing is, I don't know how much training he's been doing with Tyrone. It's probably going to be, he'll probably get better towards the end of the league, I would say as well. Just looking at the pictures of him over in Adelaide though, you're just thinking, how would this lad have ever survived given his skin tone over in Adelaide? Genuinely, he's the palest of the pale.
Yeah, milky enough. The other thing that I saw Tomás O'Shea giving out about the Kerry defenders not kind of contesting the ball from the front. Do you think? And Aidan O'Rourke talked about it last year that Kerry, the one thing they needed to get from the league was defenders that like to defend. It's just not there.
Nah, not really. It was there. It was there the first day of the All Ireland final. I can tell you that. Yeah. And your Tom O'Sullivan, I would have him as I think he's brilliant.
Was it there when Dublin went down to 14? Was it there at 15 apiece?
It was there. I thought it was there at 15 apiece. To be honest with you. The whole attacking from the front is made much more difficult now at the mark as well. As you saw with Mick Fitzsimons the other night, tried to play from the front. I suppose maybe because he thought it could be a mark in front, because the ball only skidded just in front of him, and then you get caught in behind and you're goose basically.
Yeah, but the pressure out the field was non-existent, so he was kind of lamb to the slaughter there.
True, yeah. Pat Spillane had in his Sunday World column yesterday that he just didn't think that there's a massive missing ingredient, and they're just not mean enough in defence. And I think there's a lot of pressure being placed on Peter Crowley, who's not even fit and won't be fit for a couple more months, just because he was missing, and he's like the silver bullet, or someone said it's like an unpolished diamond. He's rough, and he just offered him something different. But it's a fair bit of pressure for a lad who'll be coming off having not played for a year when he does come back.
Yeah. I'd say that's about the height of it.
That's about the height of it for Division 1 anyway, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, Kildare against Armagh. So that ended up Armagh 16 points, Kildare 10. Kildare have 1 win from 3. But for Jack O'Connor, much heralded signing. This is the guy who's going to lead us to the promised land. It's not going great, is it?
No, well, Kildare have been seriously inconsistent over the last couple of years. They were very inconsistent, very hot and cold under Cian O'Neill as well. Remember the first year was a bit of a disaster, that 8-7 or 9-8 match up against Wexford in Croke Park, and then they got beaten by... Who did they get beaten by? They got beaten by Carlow, obviously, in the championship as well. So they've been very, very hot and cold, so it's not new, but from looking like they're possibly being promoted, it's very hard to see them promoted now.
Yeah.
They've been beaten convincingly away to Armagh, beaten by a point to Clare, who in my opinion, would be one of the top, like one of the two weakest teams in that division. So they're going to have to pick up points against, the likes of Roscommon and that, which is going to be very, very difficult. They're under pressure now.
Yeah, there's no team in Division 2 with a 100% record. So Laois and Cavan, their game wasn't played. But Armagh are on 4, Westmeath are on 4, Roscommon 3, Laois 3, Kildare 2, and Fermanagh, Clare and Cavan. So nobody's won all their games and nobody's lost all their games either. So that is unbelievably tight. Like, even if you look at that Kildare inside forward line that started against Armagh, Niall Kelly and Daniel Flynn. We're thinking, geez, we can build a team around that. Then with, Paddy Brophy, Paul Cribben, for example, Feely and Mulick, like, barreling through the centre, you'd think this is a recipe for a decent team. But, like, it's the reality just this team isn't actually all that good in terms of the very, very top level.
Maybe they're not as good as we kind of expect them to be, or think they are. It's definitely going to have to be proven now. I would have imagined that one of actually, I think he said it, one of his main aims was try to get to Division 1, because then in the second year he's Division 1 football.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's going to happen at the moment. And Kildare are that sort of team where if they don't have a great league, I kind of find it hard to see them turn it on for championship.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're playing well throughout, you kind of think, these, we know what we're going to get from them. We don't really know what they're going to get.
Even just mentally to think, right, we've had a good league, we've got some wins, maybe we're in a position to push Dublin. Whereas if you don't even do it in Division 2 and maybe Dublin go on and win Division 1, I'd say not motivation, but emotionally you're on the floor thinking, how on earth can we possibly turn these lads over or even get as far as them?
Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult. Yeah. Then on the flip side, Armagh have been consistent enough, but they threw in a real clanger against Laois the week before, and it's very important for them to kind of bounce back as they did. Stephen Campbell, Turwood actually wasn't playing the other night.
He came off early.
He came off early, yeah. So it's good that they were still able to put 16 points without him and lose Jamie Clark, which I don't know. That he was on a yellow when he came in, and he kind of put his hand up, and it kind of hit one of the Kildare lads' faces. I don't think there was any malice, and it was a handoff that happens in every game. Yeah. But they managed to still overcome that, and the O'Neills are looking like we've seen a good bit with them across McGlen. They're two serious players. I think Geezer's kind of developed a pretty good squad now, and they play a nice brand. Like they're very, very easy on the eye.
It's only taken 6 years, but they're 10 different scorers, so that can't be ignored. Whereas Kildare had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, fairly convincing, it has to be said.
A big win for Westmeath against Fermanagh as well. Westmeath are kind of surprising me a bit. Like Kieran Martin is only going to be back. I think he'll be back for the next round. So he was obviously missing for the first 3 games. Like they're missing their best forward to me. Joe Egan is out as well, and he's only going to come back towards the tail end of the league. So they're doing very well. They've ground out 2 wins, I think, so far, haven't they? They're in good shape. Like in fairness, Division 2 as well. Like which is, like they're just below. They're kind of just outside Super 8-ish kind of territory.
Yeah, we'll see in Championship, because League and Championship are very different. Roscommon with 14 men for a lot of the game beat Clare 1-8 to 4 points there. Let's see what else. Derry beat Tipperary, who of course went down to 12 men during the first half when they had 2 red cards and a black at one stage. And like you're saying, horrific conditions, so hard to do a whole lot there. Longford for a while made very hard work of it against Leitrim. That was 2-14 to 1-9 for
Leitrim's
a finish.
first defeat, is it? Yeah, they'd gotten a draw and a win, I think, in their previous 2 games.
Leitrim were on, let me see what points they were on. Yeah, Leitrim had, that's their second loss. They did 1 draw. So Cork are top of that division and with 3 wins from 3. Longford on 5 points from 3 games. Then Derry down and Tip all on 3, Offaly and Leitrim on 1, and Louth on 0. So they look like they're
Offaly's games is obviously called off against Louth. Did you see how many people were down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh?
It was 1,600 to see Cork beat down 16 points to 1-8.
10 years after they beat them in the All-Ireland final, 1,600 people down at. I know it's a massive trip for Down, so you're not going to get too many.
But 1,600, it just shows the interest, isn't there? And maybe the crowd that's going to follow them, it'll be singing when you're winning.
I tell you what, from an outsider looking in, they're going to be really, really, really competitive at the top level in a couple of years.
I find that mad that the public hasn't bought into them at all, because it's pretty clear this team is on a bit of an upward trajectory.
100%, yeah. Minor All-Ireland win last year, 20 All-Ireland win last year. A good year last year in general, apart from the league. Good championship, good summer. Ran Dublin reasonably close in the Super 8s. And getting that few people at a game. That's bizarre to me.
Yeah, Powter's back in the team this year. Kieran Sheehan's back in the team. Like Luke Connolly was and Kerrigan were on the bench. Like you've got that quality coming in from the sideline. There's clearly a bit of quality there.
I tell you what, it'd be interesting if me and you were sitting here this time next year and Cork are playing Division 2 and have been in the Super 8s and we'll just say maybe got to an All-Ireland semi-final. It'd be interesting to see how many people are at games then.
And then just to touch on a couple other games, Limerick beat Carlow 179 points. Did you see that? I think it was it Ian Corbett kicked the penalty over the bar at the last.
He was right to. We do a pools competition in my own club and I had Limerick and they were down nearly the whole way. They got a goal late in the second half. And I saw the penalty for Limerick 1-6 to 1-9 and I didn't ever really register with me. Then I saw the final score 1-7 to 1-9 and I said he's a cute boy. Don't take any chances, just get the ball over the bar.
Tipped it over.
Big loss for Limerick though, because Jamie Lee, Billy Lee's son, is heading off to Australia, so he's gone for the rest of the year, and he had been on the freeze I think for Limerick, so like he's going to be a big loss, and they played all their games up until now, but I think he's heading off during the next 2 weeks he's heading off to Australia, so that's a big loss for them.
Antrim beat London 14 points to 10, so that means that Limerick are top, then you've got Sligo, Antrim and Wexford on 4 points, then Wicklow, Carlow on 2 and Waterford and London on 0 apiece.
Wexford beat Waterford the other night down in Farfield 2-3
to 8.
Do you know what? It doesn't have to be pretty on the eye. It's a big result. A draw would have been a big setback. A loss would have been the end of their Division 4 campaign, basically. You know what I mean? I think I can't remember his name now, but a fella was on to us on Twitter saying that Brian Malone had made his 160th appearance between league and championship, which is phenomenal in fairness, because he was around in the really good times.
Yeah, I wonder, did he play in 2008 when they got to the
All-Ireland? He was thereabouts anyway, definitely. But yeah, serious achievement in all honesty.
If Wikipedia is to be believed, he's on the panel since 2006. Made his debut against Monaghan in the 06 qualifier.
I'd say just down mine.
So 15 seasons.
Yeah, it's fair going. Yeah, if anybody knows, 160 league and championship appearances, there's not too many to be close to that. Cluxton obviously probably would be.
There'll probably be a few of that Dublin crew because they'd have played so many games every season because they're always. I know some of the likes of. There must be one or two of those Tyrone lads that aren't far off it. I know Kavanagh would have been.
Colin Kavanagh would be very close.
He'd be probably in around 200 himself.
Yeah, he probably would. Yeah, it's a fair going. I think. Yeah, Cluxton would be very high. Cluxton has over 100 championship appearances, doesn't he? Yeah, but it's a fair achievement. It's a massive achievement, especially given that Wexford aren't playing a whole lot of games during the summer. Maybe one Leinster, maybe one qualifier for the last maybe 3 or 4 years.
We've it all said, have we?
We have it all said.
That's it. Let us know if there's anything we've missed or any thoughts you have on the weekend's football. Thanks for watching Our Game. Don't forget to like and share the videos, and if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe.